Hello everyone, I'm Black Marvin. I'm a progressive psychedelic trance artist. I'm a professional sound designer and I'm also a teacher for electronic music production. Today, it's been a while I wanted to do this video. I'm gonna talk about how I do my live set, and it's something I get asked often, and I also noticed that for some producers the notion of live set is a bit different. Seems like everybody has its own approach. In my opinion, I consider that a live set should have some live elements in it. I'm going to show you how I do my live set, and I'm going to talk a bit also of the ideas behind it. Also, the goal of this video is to be enjoyable for a producer that know what's going on, but also enjoyable for just someone who likes to listen to live Psytrance and wants to know a bit more about what's going on stage. So I've been running the live set for a while now, but if I look at the early days, it started as, I had one F1 controller by Native Instruments that was running and controlling the track that was going on at the moment. And there was another F1 controller that was controlling the up and coming track, the track that was coming up next. And there was a launch pad that was doing all the sequencing. Well, I was controlling the launch pad. It was not like autonomous, but all the sequencing was done through the launch pad. So it was sort of the early version, and the current live set I run is just an updated version, and a better, obviously. In the end, over time you try to make things better. You try. And yeah, so that was the idea behind the live set. And the concept that never changed was that I wanted to have my tracks, split them and like fracture them back into fragments, and to be able to control these and bring them back and reconstruct them on stage. Deconstructing the tracks and reconstructing them live has always been the idea behind the live set. But in the beginning, I had to do some introspection. On one side, I could not just be 100% live and have nothing and just create stuff out of thin air and compose a track for so many reasons, because like creating a track it's like 80 hours of work. At least for me, takes longer. For some people takes, some people produce faster, but that's just an idea for 80 hours for one track. And when you're playing a live set, you have to play between 12 and 20 tracks depending on how long you play. So, and just for so many reasons, also just the momentum. People are in a festival to connect with each other, to dance, and they're not so much interested in like hearing you compose a track and make mistakes. And so I just couldn't go for like the creating everything from scratch live. But on the other hand, I didn't want my live set to be just me hitting play and some studio tracks just playing, and because even a DJ set of my own tracks, for me it's just too boring. And so I wanted to be in between, and I needed to be in between, because you cannot also, if you're too live and if it's too imperfect and if it's too in creation mode, the thing is that when you're gonna play after a DJ that plays like just tracks he bought on Beatport, it's gonna sound too imperfect. And so yeah, there's like a degree of imperfection that is great, is even adds to the performance, but there's like a threshold where you don't want to hit that level of imperfection. So how can we be in the middle of pure creation delirium and just playing a pre-made set? In order to be able to fracture the track and reassemble them together, at first I had to split them in a specific way. Actually, there's two different ways that the track are split up. The first one is through a chronological order. We're gonna take a track, for example, in order to like understand that concept better. So let's take a look at the chronological splitting. Let's take this track, for example. It's my remix of the track Heartbeat by Static Movement. We can see the track as a story, but with definite section. If you were to play it on YouTube or on Spotify or even on a CDJ, there would be the A part. This is the B part. This is the C part.
Never assume that because a man has no eyes, he cannot see. Close your eyes.
And this is the D part.
Young man, how is it that you do not?
And then there's the E part.
Close your eyes. Close your eyes.
It's a really approximate way to split them, but it helps like conceive the chronological order of the track, chronological order of the story that the track is telling. So if you are hearing a track live, I have access to all these different sequences. So instead of going like A, B, C, D, E, in a track, I have access to the B section, the C section, I have access to all of these, and I can play something like D, for example, start with D, start with sounds from that section, and then go into the B section. And if there's a very good response on the dance floor, if that creates a specific moment, I can then just play it again, or just stay there, or just play with these sounds and this vibe and this part of the story, and then I can move on somewhere else. And at a certain point, there's a sequence that will trigger the track in its natural order. There's always a moment where I trigger the original sequence, and that usually means that I'm going to start preparing and start reassembling the next track and start preparing for what's next. And I'm gonna be, instead of manipulating chronological stuff, I'm going to be more focusing on adding elements and preparing for what's next. So that is one way that the tracks are disassembled, but in order to fully understand what's being done, or at least understand better, I need to explain the other ways that the track are disassembled. Because if you were just to like skip between the sections, it would be just really weird, because there would be like, you would feel like the story doesn't make sense. So there's a way that the track are disassembled that helps reassemble them better. The next way I'm splitting the tracks is by layers. So if this was a sandwich, that would be like all the layers of this sandwich. I'm kind of hungry now, I have to say. So yeah, the sandwich metaphor, I think it's a better way than just saying that like I'm splitting through frequencies and through stems. But yeah, frequency responsibilities and stems is also a good way to say it if you're more into production knowledge. But you know what? Let's take a look at an example of what these layers are. And I'm going to use the exact tracks that we use for the chronological example. So yeah, you'll hear that it makes more sense now that they are also separated this way. There's always the first layer and stem is always the kick and bass. That's the foundation of the track. So if you're starting to understand, I can sometimes have access to the kick and bass only from the B section and only from the D section and so on. The second layer is the drums. So everything that is drum related, that is percussive, is going to be in the second layer. After that, there's the synth layer, which is really like globally synth and upfront. Anything that is, all the sounds that are not the bass and the drums, but are hitting you right in the face. That is the third layer. And the fourth layer is what I call the effects section, but it's really more like the abstract layer. It's anything that is not right in your face, but everything that is still contributing to the universe and the atmosphere of the track.
Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes.
So in order to explain more, if I have access to, let's say, all the abstract effects and elements of a track, and then it is also split chronologically, I can start to add this and really play a lot with the sounds. Okay, so now I explained how the tracks are split and fragmented. Now I need to explain how I bring them back together. This is the APC 40. That is what I use to control both the layers and also the chronological order of the track. The buttons with the lights at the top, they control the chronological order of the track. Actually, if you're seeing a group of only one color, that is one track. That is, well, all the fragments of one track, and I have access to all these when I hit one button that corresponds to one sounds or one group of sounds or and one sequence. The sliders at the bottom, they control the volume of the different layers. The first sliders on the left controls the track that everybody is hearing on the dance floor, and the four on the right, they control the next track. So it's with these and also with the lights, I can then prepare a smooth transition and transition from the universe of the first track to the universe of the second track, and it's going to be more or less noticeable. Now this is the Micro Freak by Arturia. In some earlier version of the Liveset, at some point I was running an Arturia Micro Brute. I did some Eclipse Liveset with the Micro Brute, but it's been years now that I stuck with the Micro Freak by Arturia. This is a synthesizer that I bring on stage, and I use it to add some new layers and some new texture to the current Liveset. And this is when having access to the fragments of the track and not the full track comes really handy. Because if you're trying to add stuff to a full track, let's say a beatport file that, just a final master, it's really hard because it's like you're trying to add more water into a cup of water that is already full, but when you have access to parts of the track only, it leaves some new space for some stuff to be added, some textures, some atmospheres, environment, and that is really cool. Now, obviously, this takes a lot more time than just playing a regular set or just playing the tracks as they are. And there's been some times where I just really wondered, like, is it worth it to take all these extra steps? But there's been some really unique moments that I had access to because of that way of proceeding. And I could have, like, let's say 3 different festivals, and I could use the exact same order, but just because of that would result in 3 different progressions and 3 different moments. And that's something that I like to do a lot, and that makes moments special for sure. And I'm gonna stop here because I feel that if I continue talking, I'm gonna go off my goal, which was to be a perfect balance between showing some producers who are interested in live sets how they can do it, and also just shining light for the regular folk that genuinely wanted to know more about what's going on stage. I feel right now we have the balance, but if we continue, we're gonna go too deep for this video. But if you want to dive deeper, I have a community of students, and that is one of the subjects we discuss. There's also sound design, mixing, mastering, and a lot of other cool stuff. If you're interested in that, you can join the community. The link will be in the description. And until then, I will see you in either a vlog, a tutorial, a lesson, and I will hope a festival dance floor very soon.